Behind me is Matty the Motorhome. I've had this for about 12 months and it was bought to do a lot of the work that the Land Rover Freelander was doing, but give us somewhere to stay over the weekends. Last time we used it, it came up with a small issue approaching a junction, and a load of smoke started pouring out of the driver's side front wheel. Managed to get to a lay-by. RAC came out, found that the caliper was basically dragging on the disc, causing it to get very, very hot and therefore smoke. Unfortunately, it meant having the vehicle recovered home, which is now where we're going to go through, replace the caliper, we'll throw new discs and pads on, bleed the brake system, and hopefully that should be good enough to keep going. Just to show it is the wheel. Obviously I've got the car jacked up now, and the amount of effort needed to push that is a lot. I'll whip the wheel off, push the caliper back, and then it'll spin freely. And just for completeness, I've just levered the caliper back by sticking a screwdriver in here. So now it's moving and the wheel turns freely. So that is telling me that this caliper is kaput and needs replacing. Why I'm doing this now, I need to know the size of the brake pads, because they're coming up with 3 different sizes for this vehicle. So I'm going to get the brake pads out, measure them, and go from there. So with the brake pad out, you can see that they are 145 wide, and I've measured it right. 61 tall. So I can now order the brake pads. Alright, it's been a couple of weeks, I appreciate that. But I have now had a delivery. The only reason it's been a couple of weeks is I ordered the bits from Autodoc and didn't realise that their distribution centres are all in Germany and Poland, so it took a bit over a week for them to come to the UK. Not had a chance to do it during the week, so picking it up on Saturday on probably the hottest day of the year, which is why I've got my hat on, because I've got a nice fresh scar up here that I need to keep covered. So we shall go through what we've received and start getting the brakes fixed on this thing. So what we've got brake discs. I've gone with Brembo for everything. Brake discs, because I'll show you when we take the other ones off. We have brake pads, complete with the little warning sensors, and these match what came off, which is ideal. And lastly, we have fully refurbished brake caliper, although it is a Lucas, but it was refurbished by Brembo. So let's go through, get them fitted, and hopefully we should be able to stop and start. One other job I'm going to have to do at some point, and I have got the parts and I'll tell the story later, is sorting this gas door cupboard. As you can see, there is no handle on the door. So I'll go through, explain why, what happened, and what we've done. Alright, so we failed at the first step. Gone to check I've got everything I needed. Obviously I've got the brake discs, pads, caliper, but I don't know if the caliper carrier needs to come off in order to get the discs off. I've gone to make sure I've got the right tool to do that, and it looks as though it's a 13mm hex key, because I've got 12, which is just way too loose, and 14mm, which doesn't fit, but I don't have a 13. So I'm going to have to nip over to Alfred's or something and see if I can get hold of a 13mm hex key. We shall carry on in a little bit. Well, this is turning into a palaver and I've not even started yet. So I couldn't find a hex key listed on Halfords, so I ordered one from Amazon. Nice 13mm hex key. Checked it in the size of the bolt, and it is not 13mm, it is much bigger. So that means that I must have to hammer this in, because I think the 14mm is the right size. I watched a video that said it was the right size in the end, and 14, but I think the bolt's head, or the Allen head, is so rusty and full of crud. That's why the 14 hasn't been fitting. So I'm going to try and get this in, crack the nuts off, all the bolts off, and then I can start actually getting the brakes sorted on this thing. The other thing I've had to do is order some brake spanners, which are the ones that are fully rounded. This was after watching somebody doing the front caliper on a Heimer motorhome. The brake hose cannot be undone enough to detach it from the caliper. You have to undo it from the union on the hard pipe and then do it that way. So got those. Hopefully this will now go through and I can get this caliper sorted. I don't think I'm going to be able to do the discs as part of this one. Yes, the 14mm is the hex key that's needed to do the brake caliper carrier. However, it will not come undone. I've tried big fat air gun on it. I've tried my full weight, 100 odd kilos on there. It is not for budging. I need to get this up and running. So I was doing the discs more as a nice to have because there's a bit of a crusty edge on the inside of each disc. But what I think I'm going to have to do is just pads, caliper, bleed brakes, and get it back up and running that way. Right, I've given up for the day. My jack, whilst it will lift this motorhome, I can't do it safely on our driveway. So I've gone for a bottle jack. I've just been on SGS. I've ordered like a 5-ton bottle jack, which will be more than enough for this. That should be here in the next day or two. And then I can hopefully lift it and get this all sorted, because it's really beginning to annoy me now. But whilst I wait for that, I just thought I'd go through the fun and games with the gas door cupboard. So this is what holds and locks the gas door cupboard in place. That bit turns and there should be an arm like that. Now if you look on the inside of this, it's got a plus, and whilst I could just undo this and replace the arm, the problem I've got with that is all the arms that I ordered on Amazon are like this, which means when it's on the lock mechanism, it doesn't stay on the lock, it just keeps twisting and turning, and I can't find the right position. So used a bit of AI to try and identify the lock, which in fairness AI did identify the lock, and as a result I've been able to buy a complete unit, whole new arm, complete with the plus. It does come with 2 keys as well, so there's a new lock mechanism. What I'm going to do is take the lock mechanism out the old one, because I've got the key for this, and I think the key's shared with, it's either the toilet cupboard or the water, yeah, it's the toilet cassette. So I'm just going to use the old lock with the new barrel, and away I go. And if ever you need one, that is what I've bought. This W4 motorhome lock is what I ended up searching for, and actually I found it on eBay. It came next day, and when buying just the arms off Amazon, they were about 6-7 quid. The whole thing came in at 18 quid. So by the time I'd bought 3 of them, because I've actually bought 2, both of them wrong, yeah, I've got a whole new lock. So I'm going to fit that, and then hopefully I can close that gas door cupboard. It's a really simple process. Essentially, this bit goes on the outside like that. this bit goes on the inside like that. There's 3 screws that hold the unit together, 1, 2 and 3 down here, and then just 2 that hold the faceplate in place. So I'll quickly do that. It's a nice 2-minute job, and then it's a job off the list. And there we go, that job is jobbed. Door's secure, push it in, opens, opens, and then secured. One job jobbed at least. Right, it's been a few days, well, more like a week, but we have some progress, and I have been a very lucky boy. I mean, it's still mad heat wave here in the UK. So let me show you where we're up to now. Right, so the disc is off. I'm a very lucky boy because that is the state of the caliper carrier bolt. So I'm going to have to order a replacement of those. I'm not entirely sure how that's happened. It's meant to be flat. I might see if I can order one of those. And I don't know if this will show it, but this was an absolute nightmare to get off, and there's all this almost like cork on the inside. But this is why I was looking to change the front discs while I'm at it. There's not much of a lip on this side. There's a little tiny lip on that side, but it was only this kind of edge bit from, it's because the pads don't fill the disc by the looks of it. I know they do, but yeah. And then those are the state of the pads that have come out of it. So I'm going to have to order some more bits in order to get this fully done. But I'm going to concentrate on cleaning the hub up, getting rid of all this goop that's all around the hub, and then get the new discs on. I've also decided I'm going to replace the brake hoses as part of this. There isn't enough twist in the brake hoses to undo them from the caliper. So I'm going to get the caliper fitted up. No, not connected. I'll order new hoses for the front caliper. I'll order the new bolts, and I'll see if I can order a new shim as well, because that goes between the hub and the carrier. But yeah, I'll carry on going. Well, after all that, it might not be the caliper after all. So I've got the caliper carrier off, and I thought, oh, I'll just have a quick look. This slider pin springs and returns. This slider pin is in. It is free, but once it gets compressed, i.e. when the brakes are on, it's not springing back off. It's like it's being suctioned in. So maybe it's worth getting a set of caliper carrier pins and rubbers. Like I say, that one's working fine. That one is free because it moves, but it doesn't spring back out automatically. Hey ho, we carry on. Well, it's a new day, another new day, and yet another spending spree's occurred with, once again, Autodoc, because they seem actually quite decent for getting bits for this old motorhome. So we'll have a quick run through of what we've got. So to start with, we have wiper blades, because we need those. We have Brembo brake hoses, so that I can always do the caliper if needed. We have 2 sets of slider pin kits, so they come with the grease, the rubber boots, pins, bolts, and most importantly, we have the new caliper retaining bolts. So those I'm comfortable to tighten to 210 Newton meters without ruining them. So I'm going to crack on, get this thing back in the air, get the wheel off, and quickly go through where we're up to, what we've done, and what the plan of attack will be. Alright, so I've gone ahead, I've fitted the new slider pins. That one frees quite nicely. This one, not so much, which I don't know if it's the caliper carrier that's at fault here. But if I put that slider pin in the top, it behaves like this and keeps going. This one just seems to always end up almost suctioned in, so I'm not sure if the caliper carrier's here at fault. New bolts are ready to go on, and if we go and have a look at the car, we'll show you where we are. So we've got the new discs on, calipers hung up, ready to go. I have got the new lines, so I can swap lines here. It's easy because these don't undo from here. There's not enough twist on the pipes here, so I've just bought new lines that I can run up to there. Discs on. I'm going to mount the caliper carrier here, complete with the little spacer bit here, and then see what happens when I put the caliper on. The other thing I have done is just given this little surface a small file, because where the corrosion had pitted, it was just catching the pads. So in order to make sure it's all good, I've just filed that, not aggressively. You can still see there's a load of corrosion there, but it just gets rid of all the little dimples that I think were holding the pads in place and not letting them move freely. This job has just become about 1,000 times more difficult and needless. So I'll go through what I've discovered, how I plan to go about it. So let's crack on. So I'm hoping this is working, but if you look at the bottom of here, that is a tack weld holding this pipe in. There's one on the top, and there's also one holding the top pipe in. I think there's probably one up there as well. So somebody has very kindly tack welded this in, which means I can't get this pipe out. We're not without grinding. So I can't get this pipe off, not without grinding it away or anything like that. And I think if I start grinding, I'm going to have to replace the bracket, make up a new, and I'm not a fabricator. However, one bit of good news is the pistons have wound in really, really nicely. On both pistons have wound in. So what I'm going to try and do is just reuse the old caliper for now, put the new pads, discs on, and see how it goes after that. And the tackling this is going to have to be somebody else's job, I think, potentially. Well, what was meant to be a problem for another day very quickly became a problem for today. So if we take a look around, you can see I've refitted the old caliper. I was hoping that by just filing this smooth, getting rid of the high spots, bit of grease, replacing the slide pins, it might be alright, but it's still very much binding. I've filed down the weld, so this is now loose and can come out. However, the nut here on the end of this pipe has nicely rounded off. This is not for coming undone, even with a spanner on it now. So I'm going to look, see if I can get a pre-bent pipe. If not, if I can't get a pre-bent pipe, what I'll have to do is get a brake kit and give it a go and make up a line. The brake kit should come with the correct tools for bending it. Just try and work out where all the bends are. It'll come with the flare tool and the nuts as well to go on the end. So that's the next plan, is just to see if I can find a hardline replacement. If I can't, make my own. So if we look, you can see I'm now on the passenger side. I've done this pad, this new discs and pads. You do get a little bit of binding, and that's to be expected. Maybe that's just a fluid thing. So, but this, before I did it, was about the same. And that's about the same as what I've got on the other side. So I actually think I may, by cleaning up the caliper carrier where the brake pads slide, I think I've actually managed to fix the issue. So what I'm going to do is just have another look on the other side, see if it's about the same. If it is, happy days, let's get it MOT'd. Okay, it's been a couple of weeks now since the last update on this. The motorhome has been off for an MOT where it passed with 0 advisories. They could see the new discs, new pads and all the rest of it. The rolling resistance test was clear, fast, fine. We've also done 250-ish miles on a trip away in the motorhome. All was fine, no problems at all with the brakes, so it looks as though it was just the caliper carrier where the brake pads slide in and out because it was corroded. It was trapping the pads in place and binding them on. That's not all the work that he's doing on this. There is an issue with selecting first and second gear in particular, but only when the gearbox is hot. So if it's sat in traffic and things like that, it can be quite stiff to get into gear. It's not grinding. I have got a new clutch to go in. I'm just trying to get the space together to get the car airborne with both wheels off, and then I can get the gearbox out and change the clutch, hopefully. So there's that to come. I would also like to do something with the electric system in here. At the moment there's no solar charging or anything. We do quite a bit off grid on this, so it'd be nice to get a solar panel, possibly an inverter, and I want to put some USB chargers here so that we can charge the phones off the leisure battery. I think that's the next thing to be done in here. And the other thing I need to look at is the cooling system. Although it's not overheating, it's quite erratic. The fans do kick in, I can hear them, I can feel them on the engine. The temperature gauge quite often sits low, but then when you're going uphill it does start to climb. It doesn't appear to be overheating or anything like that. The coolant levels are fine, it's not losing coolant, but there's definitely, it seems quite a common issue on these, so I don't know if it's the rad or, I mean, it's had a thermostat allegedly. There's one temperature sensor of some sort that isn't connected within what I believe is the thermostat housing. So there is more work to be done on this at home. We will get there, and please like, follow, subscribe, and we'll keep going and keep this old girl on the road. See you in the next one.